Get ready for another Crunchy Mom episode. In this episode of Science, Stories, and Stethoscopes, hosts Mike and Tim discuss vaccines and the history of vaccines. Take a listen.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Science, Stories, and Stethoscopes, Vaccine Facts, Fears, and Science. We're your hosts, Mike and Tim, back from a long break, right, Tim?
Yep, we definitely needed that break because a lot was going on.
Yeah, summer break is always needed. We're back and refreshed and ready to go.
And plus, we thought we'll give everyone some time to process our last episode because that was a really good one.
Yeah, and we got more in the works with today's episode and the next couple that are coming up in the fall.
So
we shall see what we can bring.
Yeah, so Michael, why we decided to do this episode in which you call another Crunchy Mom episode?
Crunchy Mom episode number 2.
Part 2.
Yeah, I mean, a few months ago, what was it, What is it? Or maybe actually almost a year ago, December, I think. I think it was around December. Our second episode, we talked about the Tylenol and autism. Yes. Actually, it was kind of right around the time where RFK was trying to say all his sayings and nonsense regarding the use of Tylenol and causing autism. So that kind of started up a huge thing on the news, and I think that was important to talk about because it's been on everybody's mind. And then, as a healthcare professional myself, a lot of people come in and are like hesitant about it. And, you really have to talk to them. And like, at 30 years old, are you really concerned about developing autism right now? As far as I can remember, we've been taking Tylenol since birth.
And lately...
And even before that, right? In utero, our parents taking it. But, lately, go ahead.
Yeah, lately, what is it? The CDC and like the RFK tried to change the scheduling of vaccines.
Yeah.
From previous administration.
Yeah, so I think that was, I want to say the winter of last year, where he changed the scheduling of several vaccines because he's RFK, and things that we were doing in the past didn't seem to please him. So he's gone ahead and changed that. I personally have always followed the original vaccine schedule, especially with my own kids. I don't see anything wrong with that. There's some times where, they'll go into the office and they're going to get like 2 or 3 vaccines at once. Is that necessary? Maybe not. Can you spread it out a little bit instead of a big whammy all at once? It's a lot of needles for a little kid, too. But I don't think it needs to be spread out by years. Couple weeks, couple months even. I mean, it's hard for... And I understand how it's kind of scheduled in that sense too, because you want to try to keep people from having to come multiple times, multiple days off, people work. But it gets a little hard when your kid is vaccinated 3 times in one day. But needless to say, those are very important. So, Crunchy Mom episode 2 is about vaccines. The facts, the fears, and the science behind it. We have our yearly vaccines, such as the influenza vaccine. Now COVID has become a yearly vaccine. And if we remember, 5 years ago, when the COVID vaccine came out, and it was originally only for healthcare workers for like the first, I think, month of it to roll out. And then it rolled out to regular other citizens. But yeah, I think it's important And I know you have some scientific crap to say.
Well, I will first like to preface by saying I'm not an immunologist. I'm a neuroscientist. So the stuff that I may say is just a general sense of what vaccines are and why they're important from like a scientific standpoint, but in no way I'm like a complete expert on the immunology and how vaccine truly works. But basically, as we were saying with vaccines and all the scheduling, the reason why it's important that vaccines you get kids vaccinated early is because they basically do not have an immune system at that point. They do have like immune system when they like the innate immune system and immune system or like antibodies that babies can acquire in utero through their mom. So if let's say a mom gets like the influenza shot or the COVID shot, that those antibodies that the mom produced from those vaccines do get transferred to babies in utero. So that's important. Why like pregnant women should also take regular influenza vaccine and COVID vaccines if recommended by their healthcare provider.
Mm. Yeah, it's so important for any of that. Of course, excuse me. We start getting vaccines, for pregnant mothers in utero. They always say it's important to get the COVID, to get the influenza, to get the tetanus vaccine, Tdap, tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, and those are for different things that were eradicated long, long ago. We think back to the polio vaccine, right? And what it did to prevent people from getting that horrible, horrible disease. And I believe, if I remember correctly from my elementary and middle school days, Jonas Salk from that.
Yes,
Jonas
Jonas
Salk.
Salk.
Yeah.
He basically developed the polio vaccine. But the thing about Jonas Salk was he did not patent it because he wants it to be available for everybody. So instead of making billions upon billions with this polio vaccine, he thought it was in the public interest that it should be readily available for everybody.
Hmm. And we've come so far. I mean, I give vaccines a lot to people in the urgent care clinic, that have had a cut, exposure to metal in their wound. I mean, we don't want them to develop tetanus or anything else that come with that huge infection. Like I said, we give it to moms. It's a form of passive natural immunity passed on from the mother via the placenta to the baby, and the baby has about, I believe, 6 months of immunity from the mother until it needs to start working on its own immunity itself. And whether it be vaccines that we start giving, or the baby develops a cold and starts getting gaining immunity from that, whether it be active natural immunity. You got exposed to something, uh, like a simple cold, your body's now developed immunity towards it. Now it's stored in your body.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how you mentioned that the natural immunity aspect of this. Well, the most misconception and misinformation about vaccine is that they're not natural. In reality, yeah, you could argue that vaccines are natural because if you look at the history of vaccines, you can look back to like let's look at the history of the United States. George Washington, he inoculated his whole entire troops during Valley Forge with the smallpox vaccine because he knew that in order to win the war against the British, his troops needs to be ready, and in order to be ready, they need to be inoculated against smallpox, or at that time, in which the British weren't doing. So that's one of the reasons why we won the Revolutionary War, because George Washington um, decided to, yeah, let's get everyone inoculated with a weakened form of smallpox. And yes, that's the thing with vaccine is it's not the um, virus at its full strength. It's whether a weakened form of it, which basically allows your immune system to recognize it. So as the virus or whatever you're presenting to your immune system, since it's weak, does not have the full effect in which you were to receive it naturally, as some of these country mom would argue. It's weakened, which means your body and immune system will recognize the weakened form. This way, when the virus or illness shows up in its fully full strength stage, your immune system will already know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quite a few vaccines that were developed over time that were pretty famous. Like you said, you were talking about the smallpox vaccine. Edward Jenner, 1796. It was the world's first most successful vaccine, and by 1980, smallpox was totally eradicated.
Yeah, but
And that's pretty,
the thing with the smallpox vaccine is it wasn't actually smallpox that's the vaccine. It's actually cowpox, which is closely related to it, but much weaker and doesn't it's not really like very harmful to a human.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
basically something very similar to it, in which it since it's similar, and since it has as the vaccine, your body still recognizes if it was actually smallpox, but
Yeah,
instead it
and
uses
then
cowpox, which is weaker.
polio's in the 1950s with Jonas Salk. A inactivated version of polio injected into people, basically almost nearly wiping out polio. And then I believe, if I remember correctly, an Albert Sabin, who developed the oral live drops of that disease, into a vaccine. And then, something is we hear these days, MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella. And, lately, I don't know if you've seen the news, like measles has been on the rise in certain parts of the country. And it's certain parts where they have populations of unvaccinated individuals and communities. I think there's a local one in New York, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere. But most of them are out west, California, the West Coast, and they're the ones with the outbreaks. Why have an outbreak when a simple vaccine that we received, MMR, was like early, like 10, 11, 12 years old? And I'm sure there was actually one sooner than that, but that was the latest one that I can remember. Something that I can easily eradicate. I've never seen measles in all my years of nursing and medicine. But I've seen, other horrible things that people get, and it's crazy. How about another thing we see in the emergency room, the rabies vaccine? Something as simple as that is saving you from that rabid raccoon that you decided to touch and feed that bit
Yeah,
you. Um,
yeah. Don't feed Timothy.
and that was Mr. Louis Pasteur who
Oh
developed
yeah,
it. And
his
that's a live vaccine.
his famous cell theory. At that time, no one really believed him. So he was like the one that say, "Oh, all these sickness are developed by these little tiny microscopic organisms that you can't see." And he did it with his famous broth experiment. Yeah, so even the early form of the MMR vaccine, I so I was looking at my vaccine records because I had to do it for my new jobs. Like, yeah, even our age, we received the MMR vaccines back in the early 90s.
It's I mean, God, I work in the and you work in a lab and you have exposure. Um, but I work in the healthcare field where people come in with all sorts of diseases, and I tell you, when you first go to nursing school, you're like, get me,
I
you know.
remember, yeah, I remember my cousin, his first year of nursing school, which was this previous year, he had to dig up all his vaccination records right
Hmm.
before clinical starts, and
Hmm.
he had to check things off, and then he had to get updated on his current vaccinations. He had to stay up to date with his flu shots and his COVID shots, and then
COVID,
he's like, oh. And I did not know this was part of nursing school. It's like, yeah, buddy, you will
yeah,
be exposed to all those sorts of things.
yeah, tuberculin testing, PPD testing. I mean, I've had patients with tuberculosis. It's scary. And that of course brings up the conversation of these always like trigger memories. BCG, I believe, the BCG vaccine, which is the vaccine for tuberculosis that some um, more Western countries give, yeah, not Western countries, that we were Western, African, I guess we'll say African countries give a lot, and I believe Asian countries as well.
Is it like the little scars, like on the deltoid?
Mm,
Because I
yeah.
see, because my family, they're from Vietnam and they had to get that vaccine. And I see some of
Mm,
them on my uncle, seen it on my uncle once. And then it's like,
yeah.
oh, what's that? He goes, I had to get vaccinated if I want to go to the United States. It's like,
Hmm.
so that's what
Yeah.
it is. So it
Yeah.
was like tiny
I
little
believe it's
scars.
that. If it's not, it's something else. But um, you know, a lot of those, and you'll see that. But as simple as a vaccine, that's going to save your life. Now, the debate now continues of the COVID vaccine, which was the most recent one. I mean, we had a sporadic, crazy um, vaccination of millions and millions of people in a very short amount of time. This vaccine was developed over a year, and people always the debate is, well, how was it developed that fast when we can't even develop um, cures for certain things?
Like the common cold.
Hmm.
So let's talk about the COVID vaccine a little bit more. So the technology, the mRNA vaccine, isn't fairly new. It's been there. It has always been there. But the thing was, scientists recognized that, oh yes, we can present these mRNA that that's similar to the COVID vaccine, that's similar to COVID, and this could uh, give our immune system a chance to recognize COVID. So basically, the mRNA is basically so basic biology. You go from DNA then to your RNA, and then the RNA turns to these things called messenger RNA, which is the mRNA, and that turns into the protein, which then basically similar to the virus. In this case, the COVID spike virus. So that's how COVID basically attack your immune system is by having this spike. So scientists developed the mRNA virus, the mRNA vaccine, excuse me, the vaccine that basically mimic this spike protein on the COVID virus.
And Timmy just geeked out.
And also, just so everyone know, mRNA naturally occurs in your body. It's not something it's foreign to your body. It's naturally produced in your body. And another thing about mRNA is that it's such a bitch ass molecule that if you put it at room temperature, it will die off. It will
Mm,
disintegrate because it's a bitch ass molecule. It's very unstable in the sense that it will degrade or break
so
apart
that is why we had our vaccines refrigerated.
at negative
The
80.
the funny thing is, I think the Pfizer one was kept colder, if I
Yeah,
remember.
it's
And they
kept
just
at negative 80 because that's when mRNA is most stable. And
Mhm.
another thing is they put in glycol. because that's a cryopreservative. Because without that, your vaccine is not going to work. Because the reason why it's there is to cryoprotect. The
Do you know anything about like the use of the glyco versus like thimerosal?
All I know is in the lab, when we put something at that cold, we use
Mhm.
glycol as a cryopreservative, so the protein would stay, like the molecule would stay stable at that
Yeah,
temperature.
and we did it, and we vaccinated. And I too partook in a vaccine clinic during those times, and my God, I think we vaccinated 21,000 people in the city of Boston.
Yeah, so some people might argue that, oh, it's so quick. We developed this vaccine so quick. But the reason why the vaccine was developed so quick for COVID is that basically every single scientist on this planet, were working
Was
towards one thing, and that is trying to figure out COVID. Everyone was working on that. So that's what happened when everyone decided to figure out one problem instead of a million different problems. Um, So yeah, so like the scientific community at that time recognized that this is an important issue. So everyone basically shifted towards trying to understand COVID. Doesn't matter. It didn't matter if they were immunologists or scientists. They all shift towards COVID because that was hot.
there was a general focus on one subject, and that's why it was developed in such a short amount of time. And that's why there was the three big hitters: Johnson and Johnson, Moderna, and
Pfizer.
Pfizer, that were the three that developed the vaccine. Although I don't really see Johnson and Johnsons anymore.
Mm-mm.
The
And
one
and
that one.
another thing, in addition to the collective mindset of all these scientists working towards COVID, the government fund we scientists got funding to do these research. So scientists working together, funding, which is why we were able to develop a vaccine so quick, and the technology was already there. They just had to reutilize it and package it differently.
Which was probably now defunded by the current administration.
I'm just lucky I have a job.
It's changed so much. I just saw recently on the news that they came up with a cure for where they cured one male of sickle cell
Oh
disease.
yeah, with CRISPR, yes.
Yeah. So I
So
think we have so much to go by, and so much to see in the next few years. Um, we'll see some different vaccines rolling out, and different cures. And
I'm I, I'm still iffy on using CRISPR as a therapeutic right now. Just so everyone know, it's like we might need to refine that a little bit more. Because CRISPR it's different than let's say a messenger RNA, because the messenger RNA is introduced to your body, but
mhm.
what CRISPR does, it actually changes your genome. So
the
that's the
question
topic for a different episode.
the question remains: have you given a vaccine to a mouse
No, because I don't have to.
in
I
your
just
studies? That
I just give them alcohol. I stress them out.
I
I
was
give
gonna
them
say
drugs.
he drugged them up and gave them booze,
No,
but
no, 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 no. First, I stress them out. I give them drug and alcohol.
so basically you turn them into a nursing student.
Let's hope not, because nursing students turn to nurses who then have access to narcotics.
Who then turn into Nurse Jackie. It's a vicious cycle, my friend. It happens. But anyway, so going back to the vaccine topic, we've made crazy, crazy progress over the last 300 years with vaccines, or not 300 years, but 200 at least, 250. Um, with all these vaccines, and the most notable one being back in 2021 with the COVID vaccine. But We've had such great success with smallpox, with polio, with measles and tetanus, and um, even so, chickenpox. I mean, you and I are a little too old for the chickenpox vaccine. I remember chickenpox parties back in the day. I can smell that calamine lotion from a mile away. Still, it's still in my nose. Um, I remember getting chickenpox, but not sure when the vaccine itself came
I
out.
think I looked this up once. I think it was around 94.
No, I think it's later
Was it
than that
94?
actually.
Yeah.
Fact check. Let's look.
All right. I think it's around 94, 95, around then. That's where I'm putting my bet. Then again, I have no money, so you're not gonna win anything, or I won't win anything.
Chicken. I think it was. I want to say 95, 96. Oh,
The verdict.
March 17th, 1995.
All right, March 17th on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, so we were already like 4 years old, so that wasn't happening for us.
So
Uh,
glad there is the chickenpox vaccine because the chickenpox put me in a coma.
yeah, very vax. Um,
Just so
and
you
it's
know.
interesting because you and I will develop shingles someday.
Yeah, my cousin had shingles like the other month.
But yeah, and it's all these vaccines, and then there are people in the world that refuse to get them.
Yeah, another complication of not taking the MMR vaccine is losing your hearing when you develop mumps, or like one of those three. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that you lose your hearing um because
I
of
think the
not
biggest
taking.
complication from non-vaccinating is something called death.
Yeah, that's
Permanent brain damage, paralysis, death. I think that's a little bit more, than just losing some hearing. There's. I remember, and even in high school, there was somebody who hadn't gotten vaccinated for Tdap yet, so they didn't get their tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis vaccine, and they had the whooping cough. And I remember being on the phone with them, and I can hear that crazy cough, and I was like, "Oh my god!" It was crazy. Something as simple as a vaccine could have stopped that.
hmm because basically, if you think about it, like if you want, if some of you would like a sport analogy, it's basically the other team giving you their playbook, right?
Hmm.
The vaccine is basically the virus or the ailment playbook. And like, who does not want to read the other team's playbook?
I was thinking about for tetanus, right? So tetanus, you get it from dirty surfaces. So, Timmy decides to help his dad do some yard work and cuts himself with the blade that was sitting in the backyard on a pile of dirt, right?
That
And
is one of the reasons why my dad tells me to sit aside so I don't cut
just fun.
myself.
But tetanus itself can be so dangerous. It can cause you to have painful muscle spasms, um, severe tightening of the jaw, so basically like lock jaw, and then it could cause paralysis in your lungs, and so you just stop breathing.
And how
And
often with tetanus shot? How often do you have to be update to it? Is it like every
every
10 years?
yeah, it's every 10 years. So generally, if you come to the urgent care, you just got cut, with something dirty. You've had tetanus shot 5 years ago. I'm gonna give it to you. If
Just to
it,
be
if it
sure.
was less than 5 years, you're good. If it's 5 years and over, you're gonna get a tetanus shot. Of
Why
course,
maybe I don't remember?
you probably are overdue for it.
You're probably right.
Probably way overdue for it. And that's something you don't even have to go to the doctors anymore. It's something as easy as going to your local pharmacy and you can get the pharmacist to give you. A lot of the times now, before or during pregnancy, your OBGYN will say, hey, if anybody is thinking about going in contact with your baby, you need to be vaccinated. So moms, dads, uncles, aunts all get vaccinated for the Tdap. So I think that's I think that's cool, and I think it's something. It's one of those worldwide debates that you can just debate all you want on the these articles that they find with like the smallest amount of sample size, or this research done by some quacky um, scientist. Or
Or
I
you
love it
mean,
when they bring up
or
articles. Go ahead.
I know I love it when they say they did their research and it's a blog. It's a Crunchy Mom blog.
The funny part is when they bring up research articles to show you, and they're not even research articles. They're just basically, somebody going through a bunch of articles and coming to a conclusion. And mind you, I can't even think. It's I've had a long day, and I can't even think of the type of research that would be. You go through a bunch of articles and then like paraphrase them all.
A review.
Uh, yeah. Lit review,
Lit
and
review.
you call that your research. I don't think so.
Yeah,
That's
there's a lot of pitfall of lit reviews, which we discussed previously in the previous episode.
there's so much research out there, and I can tell you whatever research you're going to find, you're not going to find sufficient enough evidence to try to sway me in any different way.
Yeah, but
It's
think with
vaccinated.
Yeah, but the thing with like people like these blogs who are doing their own research in quotation marks, is that they're looking at blogs and they're just looking and trying to find things that basically conf- confirm their bias. Like I'm
Hmm.
gonna find this thing and oh look, it support my thought. That's not how research works. I can
I bet
tell
you.
you, I
I
can
was gonna
tell
say,
you
I bet you can
so.
find somebody on YouTube
Yeah, that too. I can tell you
that
this much. When I do research, when I go through the whole entire scientific method, what I find out is usually not what I originally thought when I came in with. Like when you do research, things change along the way, and you have to be open-minded about that whole entire process. And with all these mommy blogs and all that stuff, it's just basically confirmation bias to like confirm what you want to hear.
But the funniest, why are you listening to them? I don't care if they're
Because I relate to them. They get me.
yeah, but that's what, that's the problem these days with social media. Um, Social media has destroyed people, and you can find somebody on YouTube who claims that they're an expert in these fields. Um, I guarantee you're not going to find a doctor or a nurse or a scientist or a pediatrician or anybody who's going to tell you otherwise. And it's going to be somebody who's got some quacky degree, or they've had first, quote unquote, first experiences on these things, or quote unquote, they've done their own research. Um, but
Yeah, so like sometimes when I go through the comment section, like on Facebook or social media posts, all this stuff is anecdotal.
yeah,
It's like out of one or like one of out of two, and they basically all talk to each other. It's like,
I mean,
oh,
who's the biggest anti-vaxxer in this country?
RFK or Secretary of Health.
Who quote unquote is not anti-vax? When he was with that whole thing with autism and everything, he's changed his mind so many times. It's ridiculous. I mean, the man doesn't have a medical degree to his name, and he's running the country's Department of Health.
Yes. Ugh, it's a mess. Ugh. And plus another thing, like with all these vaccine scheduling, it's like, oh, we have so many vaccines, so much. Like they don't do it in Europe. Well, first of all, this is not Europe. There's certain things that are happening in this country that's not happening in Europe, and there's certain things that are happening in Europe that aren't
That don't
happening here. So the scheduling is based on your region and the population that's in that region. So you can't really compare Europe to the United States when it comes to these vaccine scheduling.
they should do is develop a vaccine for the Northeast for Lyme disease.
I can tell you this. There are some scientists that are working on Lyme disease.
Because that's one thing that you learn in school, as a nurse practitioner or a PA, that if you go to school in this area in the Northeast, that they say you guys are going to be the biggest experts on this, um, in comparison to somebody who's went to school, let's say in the West Coast or whatnot, because it's so prevalent in this area. Um, I can't tell you how many times a week I pull ticks off somebody, or I give them medicine because I prescribe them medicine because they have pulled the tick off and it was on for quite a bit of time. It's absolutely crazy. And I was thinking about the other day. I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody's actually working on a vaccine for Lyme disease.
People are studying it.
Well, I'm
That
sure. I mean, people are always studying everything. So
well, not these days.
I'm curious
Oh,
to see what's going to be like the next biggest vaccine. Um, in the next couple of years, like what's gonna. But I was just looking at the
oh,
news.
it'll be the one for explosive diarrhea.
Although you know what, that cyclospora has been around for so long, it just never usually the main cause for these outbreaks. It's usually like an E. coli strain rather. So it's kind of weird that one came out about, but I mean, cyclospora has been around forever, just like COVID-19 technically has been around forever. Um, it was
The
just a bigger.
19, actually, the 19 is the year.
Well,
Not
yes,
the,
yeah. So, but COVID itself has been around forever, but the new strain is COVID-19 for the year. But COVID, I mean, if you look back, we've tested people for COVID for many years. It's just been that recent stuff. But I was just actually looking because measles is again on the news. It was in the New York Times 2 days ago. It's cases hit a new record. It said that more measles has been reported in the United States in the last 2 years than um, a period of time from the year 2000 to 2024. So in the last 2 years, there has been more cases than 24 years in between the year 2000 and 2024. That's crazy.
yeah, it's like an exponential increase in cases.
Yeah.
Like you basically had something that's basically essentially been like eradicated in
And,
a
and,
sense, and
and
then
right.
it's like, hey, here I am.
And more and more people are declining the vaccine. And this is what we're getting. We're getting more cases of stuff that have been eradicated for years.
Unfortunately, I'm thinking that polio might make a comeback, and the
Oh,
iron lung.
if we're at this rate for measles, I mean, we're talking, mumps, rubella, and black fucking plague is next.
Oh,
Uh, Cholera. I mean, we're gonna go back to the goddamn days of what's that nursery rhyme? Mary.
very. Oh, ring around the posy.
Ring Around the Posy, Pocket Full of Mosey. But who was
Ashes,
that? That was
ashes.
oh my God, who was that? Typhoid Mary.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go back to all those times. We're gonna, somebody's. It's absolutely crazy. Although I've always been curious, there's got to be, is somewhere in the United States, a place where they harbor vials, like a biocontainment center
Oh yeah.
of smallpox or weapons of weapons of that nature.
Oh yeah. There's
Biomedical.
definitely. This is not conspiracy. There is a bank that has all these things.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought it was in
That
Nebraska,
that's stored
somewhere out
away.
there.
Yeah, they have it stored away just in case that we need to study it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I thought it was like out there somewhere, like Wyoming, Nebraska, somewhere out there. Um, but I think this measles thing. It's gotten so out of hand, and what's around the corner? But I mean, what are we coming to an end now? And what's around the corner? School, more contact. Um, and it's going to be the cooler months pretty soon. The summer months are coming to an end. And what does that mean? We're going to be inside again, closer contact. And, I don't even feel like I had a break from maybe like a month, maybe 2 months break for the flu. It has been rampant this year. And, God, I feel like, excuse me, I haven't tested somebody for the flu since maybe late May, early June. And you get like late June, July, August, maybe September off, maybe October. And then it's like, let's go again, round two, fight, just like
You
straight.
don't get a break. So
Yeah.
if any of you have been noticing Michael has been yawning, that's one reason why. He is tired.
Yeah. I just did a shift
Him and
from
his colleagues are tired.
yeah.
So please
And
give him a break.
yeah. And it's crazy. We're going to go back to school. So we're going to start seeing the colds. The strep throat is famous in schools, spreads like wildfire. Um, Teachers are like the number one people that get it besides the students because they're
And
in
then
contact
you,
with children all
and
day.
then your kids come home and give you a nice little present, and you're sick.
They're not giving me anything. Hell, I got it all.
Sorry, I'm immune.
I'm inoculated to every. I'll walk into a COVID room now and just bring it.
Ah, smell. Taking that aroma.
Mhm.
Nice
No.
little
I've
floral.
had it so many times. I can't anymore.
Yeah. Just it's like
But we've talked about the vaccine facts, the science behind it,
the crunchy moms.
the
Mhm.
crunchy moms. But what about the fear with the crunchy moms? I mean, what are they fearing?
They're fearing that, yeah, they're fearing that the vaccine, as RFK alluded to, causes autism. So that's one of the thing. But there's no evidence in the literature that vaccine causes autism. If anything, scientists who are autistic makes vaccine, and autism causes vaccines.
Mhm.
But in real talk, there is no connection between vaccines causing autism. The reason why we see so many cases of autism these days is diagnosing autism is a lot better. And as a community, scientific community, we understand autism more. So
Yeah, and if you think about it, in the 1950s, I think RFK was mentioning it. There was barely any 1950s or 1960s. There was barely any cases of autism, but was there a lot of cases of ADHD? I mean, I think over time in the last few years, we've developed you know, easier and more successful ways to diagnose. And the question remains, are we too lenient on the diagnoses, um, or not? And that's up for debate. But with all that, we're seeing a rise in autism, and is it the Tylenol? No, it's not the Tylenol that's causing your autism. Is it the vaccines? No, it's not the vaccines causing your autism. There's something else going on.
And scientists are working on trying to understand it right now.
Yep. But I think in the next couple of years we'll see it a lot more. Come we'll start seeing it come out a lot more, and I'm just curious to see what this measles break. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. What is that going to do this year for damage?
Honestly, it's long story, big picture. There's a lot of research that's been done on vaccines. It is safe.
What I think we need to do? Social media.
And I am not being paid by Big Pharma. I don't get paid. I don't get paid by Big Pharma.
I think the biggest thing that needs to be done is RFK, our current leaders, and social media personnel need to go out there and say, hey, everybody get vaccinated. It's important. It doesn't cause this, that, or the other. And we'll see a rise in vaccinations because people tend to listen to everybody but themselves,
But the hard part is trying to get through people who try to basically shop for information. They're trying to shop for information that confirms what they're thinking already. And right now it's just really tough to change people's mind when their minds are already made up. So they again consult Dr. Google.
That's the biggest thing. I think I have A, B, and C. Well, how'd you come up with that? Oh, I went on Google Spiral, and that's what Google came up, and I'm like, oh my god.
Have I told you one time WebMD told me I'm dead because I put in certain symptoms?
I remember the days of the symptom checker of WebMD, and you put that down, and it's like, call 911 immediately. You are dying.
You are dead. Sorry. Okay.
But thankfully, I have that degree, and you will not be dying.
Consult a medical professional.
Yeah. All right.
I
think that's it.
Yeah. So, again, vaccines are perfectly safe. We have decades of research on it, and and the literature is pretty clear that there is no connection between vaccine causing autism.
That's correct.
And it's safe.
Next time live, we'll see Tim getting a vaccine.
Oh, we can do that.
Pick your poison.
Or we can see Michael giving Tim a vaccine.
Yeah.
Michael giving Tim the flu shot.
Yeah.
And then Michael gives himself the flu shot. All right, enough of these tangents. I think that's it for this episode.
That'll be it. So we'll see you next time for episode 9.
Signs, Stories, and Stethoscopes is for entertainment and educational purposes only. For medical advice, please consult your medical provider.